A23. Next one is this, A32, and then lastly A33. Again, I'm using row 1. First element is A11. Rule out the row containing element A11. Rule out the column containing that element. And then what do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the minors of A11. And I have this there. Next, I put here minus. Why do I say minus? Because of this sign. I didn't put a plus here because that's the first. But this is a plus. So the next is minus. And the third one will be what? A plus. I take element A12. Remember, I'm using row 1. So I have here A12. I rule out the column containing A12 and rule out what? The row containing A12. That is, I just do a little strikeout and a strikeout there. And I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4. That is A21, A23, A21, A23, A31, A33, A31, A33. Let's write this. Again, A12, rule out the column containing A12, rule out the row containing A12. We are left with A21, A23, A31, A33. And that's what we have there. Next, we have the plus. A13. Sorry for that. Let's mix up. We are using row 1. So the last element there is A13. Now we rule out the row containing A13 and the column containing A13. And we are left with what? A21, A22, A31, A32. A what? 21, A22, A31, and then A32. And that's all. We simply now evaluate. Already we know how to find the determinant of a 2 by 2 matrix. So this will be A22 times A33 minus A32 times A31. Here we'll have A21 times A33 minus A31 times A23. And here we have A21 times A32 minus A31 times A22. Let's put that down quickly. Here we have A11 outside, so it's just standing by to multiply the result of this. So I have here A22, A33 minus A23, A32. That's for the first one. We have a minus there. And then this is A12. Open and close this. A21, A33 minus A31 times A23. Let's come back this way. Plus, that's the last one. We have A what there? 1, 3. Open. A21 times A32. A21, A32 minus this A31, A22. By the time you evaluate this, we'll have the determinant of the matrix A. I'll go over this again. We are looking for all the determinants of a 3 by 3 matrix. Before we do that, we write this out, or we can do this mentally. First row is plus, minus, plus. Second row, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus for the third row. Pick any row or any column. If you decide to use column 2, then this will be your guiding signs. If you're using row 1, as we have just done, then we use this. So row 1, starting with elements A11, we have this. Pick out the minus by ruling out this row and the column that contains A11, and we have this 4. The same thing is done for A12, likewise for A13, and then we arrive here finally. Let's take an example quickly. I take here, let's say, find the determinant of B, let's say B, a 3 by 3 matrix here. Let's start with minus 1, 2, 5, 0, 1, 6, 4, 2, 3. That's the matrix we want to find the determinant. So we are looking for determinant of B, which is equal to this, minus 1, 2, 5, 0, 1, 6, 4, 2, 3. Now I have this at the back of my mind. Plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. Well, I'm going to use rule 1, so I have plus, minus, plus there. So I quickly go. Minus 1, that's the first element. That gives me 1, 6, 2, 3. How did I get this? Rule out the row containing minus 1. Rule out the column containing minus 1. We are left with 1, 6, 2, 3. Sign there is minus. Our next element is 2. Then we have this. Rule out the column containing 2 and the row containing 2. I'm left with 0, 6, 4, 3. 0, 6, 4, 3. And I take the last one plus, that's 5. Rule out the column containing 5 and the row containing 5. That gives us what left? 0, 1, 4, 2. 0, 1, 4, 2. And then I begin to evaluate. This is minus 1 into 1 times 3. It's 3 minus, that's the determinant of a 2 by 2 matrix. This is a 2 by 2 matrix. 1 times 3 is 3 minus 2 times 6 is 12. We have a minus sign there. Now 2, open. 0 times 3 is 0 minus 4 times 6, 24. Here we have plus 5. 0 times 2 is 0 minus 4 times 1, 4. And we have here 3 minus 12 is minus 9. Minus 9 times minus 1 is positive 9. 0 minus 24 is minus 24. Minus 24 times minus 2, that gives us what? Plus 48. 0 minus 4 is minus 4. Minus 4 times plus 5, that gives us minus 20. So we have 9 plus 48, 57. 57 minus 20, that gives us 37. And that's the determinant of the matrix B. Let's take one from the past question, UTME 2011, paper type D, question number 25. We are required to evaluate the determinant of this matrix. Let's take that quickly. Determinant of matrix 4, 2, minus 1. 2, 3, minus 1, minus 1, 1, 3. I start with, again, I'm going to use my row 1. It's always easier so that you don't miss out. You just know you're going to use plus, minus, plus for the first row. So I say, okay, the determinant of this matrix will be equal to 4 into what? Rule out row 1, rule out column 1, we have 3, minus 1, 1, 3. Next sign is minus. Sorry, let's put down 2 first. Remember we are using rule 1, so 2 comes down. I rule out column 2, row 1, I have 2, minus 1, 3. 2, minus 1, 3. Last is plus. What do we have here? Minus 1. Please be careful with this. Rule out row 1, that's the row containing minus 1, and rule out the column containing minus 1. We are left with 2, 3, minus 1, 1. 2, 3, minus 1, 1. And we advance. 4. This is a 2 by 2 matrix, so we do what? 3 times 3 is 9. Minus 1 times minus 1 is minus 1. So I have minus 1 there. I close. This is minus 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Minus 1 times minus 1 is plus 1. So I just drop my 1 there. Quietly and move. Plus Oh, this is minus 1. I want to put minus 1 there. This becomes minus 1 into bracket. 2 times 1 is 2. Minus 1 times 3 is minus 3. That brings us here. This is 4 into 9 minus 1 is 9 plus 1. So that's 10. 6 minus 1 is what? 5. So I have minus 2 times 5. 2 minus 3 is 2 plus 3. That is 5 again. So I have minus 1 times 5. And here we have 40 minus 10 minus 5. That's 40 minus 10, 30 minus 5, 25. So the determinants of the matrix there for question number 25, type D, UTME 2011, happen to be what? 25. We'll take one more example, and that will be it for the determinant of a matrix. We'll take our last example on determinants of a 3 by 3 matrix. But this time around, we're looking at the very first example we had. That is matrix B. Minus 1, 2, 5, 0, 1, 6, 4, 2, 3. In the first example, we used row 1. Now let us take something else. Probably let's use column 1. But before then, it is advisable, when you're taking an exam like the UTM examination, to choose the row or column that has a greater number of zeros. Here I have just 1 0. So it would have been preferred for me to go for what? Row 2 or column 1. Let's go for column 1. I'm looking for a determinant of matrix B. And that is minus 1, 2, 5, 0, 1, 6, 4, 2, 3. I'll show you the advantage of choosing a row or a column that has a greater number of zeros. Plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus. So here I'll be going for plus, minus, plus, column 1. So I'm using this. So I take first element minus 1. We rule out the row containing minus 1, rule out the column containing minus 1, and we are left with 1, 6, 2, 3 as before. 1, 6, 2, 3. Now next we are looking at element 0, and here that is minus, so we take the minus, and this is 0. Rule out the row containing 0, and rule out the column containing 0. We are left with what? Take note, we are ruling out column row 2 and column 1. The row that contains element 0 and the column that contains element 0. We'll be left with 2, 5, 2, 3. 2, 5, 2, 3. Now, remember we're using this column, so we don't have what? The plus. And this time around, we have 4. We rule out again the row containing element 4, and then the column containing element 4. I rule this out and roll this row out. We are left with 2, 5, 1, 6. 2, 5, 1, 6. Now here lies the advantage. Since I have a 0 here, I shouldn't even bother myself calculating this, because this will ultimately give me what? 0. Whatever value I get from here, by the time I multiply by 0, I'll get 0. So that saves my time. So if I had like 2 zeros, probably this was a 0 and this was a 0. So if this was 0 and this was 0, I'll only treat for minus 1 and neglect these two. And that way I'll quickly obtain my answer, which is one of what? The benefits or one of the advantages in something like the UTME examination. So I go here, minus 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Minus 2 times 6 is 12. I'll just neglect the whole of this because I know it's going to be 0. I'll move straight here. That's plus 4 into 2 times 6 is 12 minus 1 times 5. We have 5. And this is minus 1. 3 minus 12 is minus 9. Here I have 4, sorry, plus. We have 4. 12 minus 5 is 7. Minus 1 times minus 9 gives us positive 9. 4 times 7 is 28. And again, just as we had in the first case, the determinant is what? Is 37. So if you have any row that has more zeros, go for it. You get your answer on time. That's it for determinant of a square matrix. Next, we look at cofactors of a matrix. Next, we're looking at the cofactors of a matrix. We'll be looking at for cofactors of a 2 by 2 matrix and that of a 3 by 3 matrix. What is a cofactor? The cofactor of a matrix is simply the minor for each element of the matrix. Let's look at this by example. We start with that of a 2 by 2 matrix. I take matrix A, our popular matrix. A11, A12, A21, A22. How do I obtain the cofactor of matrix A? I go for that, cofactor of A. But before this, we also look at the sign position for the 2 by 2 matrix. So I have here plus, minus, minus, plus. For element A11, what's the minor for this? I'll rule out the row that contains A11 and rule out the column that contains A11. And I'm left with A22. That is, I strike this out and strike this out. I have A22. But not just that. We consider the sign also. The sign there is positive, so we just leave it as it is. Next, I look at element A12. Rule out the column that contains A12 and rule out the row that contains A12. What do I have left? I have A21. So here I have A21. But take note of the sign there. So we'll negate this. For element A21, rule out the column that contains A21 and rule out the row that contains A21. We have element A12. Because of that sign, we negate this. Again, for element A22, rule out the column and then rule out the row. We have A11. And that's the cofactor of a 2 by 2 matrix. An example immediately. I take matrix A. And matrix A is 1, minus 2, 3, 11. Cofactor. Quickly. We have plus, minus, minus, plus. Element 1, I rule out the column and I rule out the row. And I have what? 11. The sign is positive, so I do not change. For element minus 2, rule out the column, rule out the row. We have elements 3 left. So for minus 2, the minor is 3. But look at the sign. Minus. For element 3, what's the minor of this? I rule out its column, rule out the row containing 3. We have minus 2 left. So I deposit minus 2 there. But because there is a minus sign at this point, that becomes positive. So I change this to positive. And then for 11, rule out the column and rule out the row and we have 1. And that's the cofactor for a 2 by 2 matrix. Very straightforward. We move straight to that of a 3 by 3 matrix. C22, C23, C31, C32, C33. The cofactors for matrix C. I'll take this step by step. Please carefully follow me. Cofactor C. I'll draw a very large setup there. What will be the minor for element C11? But please, before that, again, the positions, the sign positions, very, very important. Every one of them will be made use of in this case. For a 3 by 3 matrix, we have plus, minus, plus. Here we have minus, plus, minus, and here we have plus, minus, plus. In this case, we are going to use all of them because we'll be finding the minor for every element in the matrix. For C11, of course, that's positive. We rule out row 1 and rule out column 1. We are left with C22, C23, C32, C33. We quickly write there the determinant of that. C22, C23, C32, C33. How about for C12? So this is the minor for C11. C12 or C12, we rule out column 2, rule out column 1. We are left with 1, 2, 3, 4. Now take note of the minus there. So this will be minus there. What do we have? We rule out column 2 and what? Row 1. Why? We are ruling out the column that contains C12 and the row that contains C12. And we are left with C21, C23, C31, and C33. Take note that this is the determinant of this 2 by 2 matrix that we have just brought out. How about the third element, C13? Rule out the column containing C13 and the row containing C13. And we are left with 1, 2, 3, 4. Take note the sign there is positive, so we just put this. Close. So for that we have C21, C22, C31, C32. So I have C21, C22, C31, C32. And then next I go for row 2. What's the minor for C21? The minor for C21, rule out the row containing C21, rule out the column containing C21. I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4. C12, C13, C32, C33. So we have here a determinant of that. C12, C13, C32, C33. How about the sign? It's negative. So we negate that. So whatever result we get, we have at the end of, after finding these determinants, the minus sign will affect it. This is positive, so this will not be affected. This is negative, so it will be this way. And then our third row is positive, negative, positive. So this will just be positive. But this will have a negative sign attached to it. And finally, we're going to have this as positive. Let's treat for these two, and then you can fill these other ones on your own. For C22, what will be the minor for this? Rule out the row containing C22. That's row 2. And the column containing 22. That's column 2. What do we have left? C11, C13, C31, C33. So I have here C11, C13, C31, and C33. That's for C22. How about C33? C33, that's the third one for the third element on the second row. Rule out the row containing C23 and the column containing C23. So I take this row out and I take this column out. What do I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have C11, C12, C31, C32. So quickly we can fill these other ones without doing too much of trouble. I wrote this out.